Good afternoon and welcome to your next unit. This unit is CHCDIV001, Work with Diverse People. So what is diversity? So this may include anything from race, culture, language, religion, beliefs, spiritual, customs, personal history and experience, gender and gender relationships, disability and special needs, or your sexuality. Culture, race and ethnicity. So a culture is a person's way of life. It's including their customs and beliefs. Race is a person's biological or genetic group, which is most often determined by the colour of their skin. And ethnicity is a person's identification with a social or cultural group based on shared experience, or it can just be their nationality. So disabilities, lots of different types of disabilities. It's not just down to the physical disability. It can also be an acquired brain injury. It can be a cognitive disability, an intellectual disability. It could be the lack of vision or hearing that can be classed as a disability as well. Religious or spiritual beliefs. So this comes into a person's beliefs in prayer, which they have certain requirements at a certain time or a certain place to undertake. It can come down to their dress, whether it be a turban or a religious symbol that they choose to wear. It can come down to their food. So this is including foods that they cannot eat or they don't wish to eat or that are classed as sacred, pilgrimages, or charity works or donations. Gender. Now this is how people view themselves. So a long time ago we just identified as male or female. Now we're identifying as male or female or non-binary or transgender. So it's how someone identifies themselves. The term intersex is used to describe people who biologically doesn't clearly fit either gender. Generations. So people in Australian society are often divided by age into generations. So this could be your teenagers or your millennials, your young married couples, your Generation X, your Vietnam veterans or your DVAs, older people, retirees and baby boomers. Sexual orientation. So like I mentioned earlier, back a long time ago, it was heterosexual or homosexual, and homosexual was classed as taboo. Now that we've learnt a lot more about sexuality and identity, we've brought more sexualities into play. These can be things from bisexual, asexual, pansexual, and the list goes on. Indigenous Australians. Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander people are not a homogenous group. They are diverse and culturally different within themselves and within their own individual tribes. They have unique customs and beliefs and even use different dialect and language. Family structures and ceremonies are also different from those of the European. This may mean adapting to what you offer and how you believe to meet their needs and preferences. Human rights. So each one of us have the right to have human rights under the Human Rights Declaration or the Universal Declaration of Rights. We are entitled to have healthcare, shelter, food and water. We're entitled to not be discriminated against due to our age, our sexual identity, our race, our culture. We have a Racial Discrimination Act that ensures that all Australians, no matter what background they come from, are treated equally and afforded the same opportunities. Identifying bias. So often bias comes as an unconscious act without even thinking. To identify the bias, you need to become conscious of what people are saying around you and also what you are saying to people. One method of doing this is using word association to describe various people. Write down the first thing that comes to mind. Cues for the word associated may include a person with crutches, an Aboriginal man, a gay couple. That is being biased. It could be, that's Jack that likes fishing that's broke his leg and unfortunately is on crutches. Reflection on bias. So you could adapt the cues for people you are likely to encounter in your role, or have another person suggest them. Continue to identify your thoughts. Whenever you meet someone of a different race, culture, sexuality, religion or gender, ask yourself why you think this way and whether it is fair or not. Limits of awareness. So this is being aware of the people that you work with. It's being aware of your clients and their cultural background. And it's ensuring that we don't stereotype or become biased towards these people. If you don't have an understanding about their cultural or their sexual orientation, ask, but do it in a respectful manner that maintains their dignity. If you're not comfortable with doing that, go to your supervisor and ask if she can provide some more information to you. Reflecting on abilities. So during your interactions with your clients and your colleagues, you want to refrain from imposing your own values, beliefs and attitudes onto them. It's important to maintain non-judgmental whilst providing care to your clients and working with colleagues from different backgrounds. This means that you don't make moral judgments. You may not agree with what they are doing. You may not agree with their religion or their beliefs or their sexual orientation. This means that you don't make a moral judgment. So we're not going to provide judgment or opinion to those that we don't necessarily agree with. We are there to provide assistance and support for their overall health and well-being. Reflecting on abilities. Values and beliefs may come from religion or culture. It may come from tradition or life events, employment, education, lifestyle choices, or their political beliefs. Improving your awareness. So how can we become more aware for the clients that we work with, for the colleagues that we work with? We can do our own individual research into their sexuality, into their culture, into their political views or their religious views. This would give us a better opportunity to work alongside them harmoniously and also provide a higher standard of care to our clients. Professional development opportunities. So this is where you are working in your organisation and you will have the opportunity to do some professional development. This could be across any part of your scope of your role, but in this instance, when it comes to diversity and culture, it could include skills training, it could include attending cultural days, it could include sitting around with your colleagues from different cultures and openly discussing their culture as well as yours and having a better understanding. Benefits of diversity. So there's many benefits of diversity in the workplace. It allows people from different backgrounds with various skills to contribute. For example, in a customer service organisation, having people from different cultures can allow them to relate easier to a wider range of clients. Respecting diversity. Acknowledging that diversity is important in the workplace is your first step. And supporting initiatives and to promote and utilise diversity. So how do we do this? We have cultural days, whether it be with food or with celebration of special cultural events or clothing. We encourage inclusiveness hiring practices. That means that we're going to hire from lots of different backgrounds of cultures, so that when our clients come in from lots of different backgrounds of cultures, we can tailor to their needs. Workplace relationships. Professional relationships are the building blocks of communication in the workplace, regardless of diversity. So how do we get that? We build trust. We build mutual respect, mindfulness, and we do this through open, effective communication. We encourage employees to spend more time with each other. We can do this through team bonding days. We talk about their experience and areas of expertise, and we resolve conflicts and disagreements in a professional manner. We develop their active listening and teamwork skills. Once again, this can be done through team meetings. It can also be done through team bonding sessions. Safe work practices. Your own workplace may or may not be a culturally safe place. Therefore, you will need to alleviate the extent to which it implements cultural safe practices. Is the workforce educated on different cultures? And are there policies and procedures in place to prevent discrimination? If you find that these aren't in place, take it to your supervisor and suggest that there's a team meeting that be held with those that you work with from a wide range of diverse backgrounds and put together a policy to cover everybody's needs. The principles of cultural safety are improve the health and well-being of others, empower the users of a service, recognising inequalities in various areas, and avoid being biased or judgmental towards others. Demonstrating respect. So we demonstrate respect in different ways, but when it comes down to culture, how we demonstrate respect there is by using the correct spelling and pronunciation of cultural words. We acquire the necessary aids, whether that be interpreters or it could be cue cards, so that we can communicate effectively with our clients. We use genetic language. So this is that we're not going to use slang because, as mentioned earlier, slang in the Australian culture is very different to other cultures and vice versa. And we need to have some learning and understanding and education around the cultural standards. Communication. Barriers of communication include resistance due to lack of trust, preconceptions, attitude differences, stress, illness or pain, lack of common ground, lack of empathy, cultural, religious or social differences. To display respect, we need to use active listening. And as I've mentioned earlier, to use active listening, we paraphrase what we're being told back to the person that we're being told by. We respect all people and involve them in the important decision making. We involve them in the communication of care. We respect people's cultural values, protocols and methods of doing things. Once again, they may be different to our own, but we do this without judgment or opinion. And we use appropriate language. We use professional language whilst at work. The use of interpreters. So if you have a client that is speaking a second language other than English, we could also use interpreters. It's not just for the language barrier, we also use interpreters for those that have a hearing issue, and they use the Auslan language interpreters. We can also use cue cards or charts to be able to identify the needs of what the client is asking for. The Translating and Interpreting Services National provides free interpretation services to non-English speaking Australian citizens or permanent residents who need to communicate with approved groups and individuals. Communication difficulties. So this comes down to using our slang or our jargon. You'll be able to identify that this is going to bring up a communication barrier. It is becoming unclear what the organisation rules and protocols are for the client when you are using the slang. A lot of the time we like to back what we're saying up to culturally diverse clients with written information. Sometimes these clients will understand written information better than how they can hear it. And variations in expected behaviour. If you're not displaying respect towards the client, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to close off and not want to communicate with you any further. Protective factors. The following are protective factors that can reduce the risk of threats often faced by marginalised groups. Education, employment, supportive family and community, understanding the language, ability to practice their culture openly, writing and reading skills. Resolving difficulties. This is where we can bring in an interpreter or a third party if we are having communication difficulties with the client, and they can assist with us communicating so that the client has a clear understanding of what we're asking of them or what the process is going to be moving forward. Once again, at the end of looking through your PowerPoint presentation and your learner guide, you will come to your questions for the unit that are required to be completed in your own words. These will consist of a skills assessment, a knowledge assessment, and performance assessment. If at any time you're experiencing any difficulties with these questions or you don't understand any of the questions, please feel free to contact your trainer directly and they gain some assistance from them. They're more than happy to help you along the way. Thanks for listening. Bye.